I'm standing at my grandmother's funeral when the lawyer hands me a locked metal box with my name on it. My father's face drains of color. He lunges forward, demanding I give it to him. But I open it anyway. Inside is a letter that begins, "Sarah, your father has been lying to you for 30 years. My hands start shaking. I'm standing at my grandmother's funeral when the lawyer hands me a locked metal box with my name on it. My father's face drains of color. He lunges forward, demanding I give it to him. But I open it anyway. Inside is a letter that begins, "Sarah, your father has been lying to you for 30 years. My hands start shaking. The funeral home is silent except for my father's heavy breathing. My brother and sister exchange confused glances. My mother grips the edge of her chair, knuckles white. I look down at Grandma's handwriting, and suddenly every cold shoulder, every forgotten birthday, every time my father introduced my siblings but hesitated before saying my name, it all comes rushing back. Grandma knew something. And she made sure I'd find out. Growing up, I always knew something was wrong. I just couldn't name it. My father would take my brother fishing on Saturdays. He'd help my sister with her math homework at the kitchen table. But when I walked into the room, he'd stiffen. His smile would fade. He'd suddenly remember something he needed to do in the garage. At family dinners, relatives would ask about the kids. Dad would be talking about Mark's baseball games and Jennifer's piano recitals. Then there'd be this pause. This awful, stretching silence. "And Sarah's doing fine," he'd say flatly. Like I was an afterthought. Like I was someone else's responsibility. I learned to make myself small. To not expect him at my school plays. To stop asking him to teach me to ride a bike. Mom would brush it off. "Your father's just tired from work, honey." But I saw how he was with my siblings. He wasn't tired then. Grandma was different. She'd pick me up from school and take me for ice cream. She'd braid my hair and tell me I was special. "You're my girl," she'd whisper. When I cried about Dad, she'd hold me close and say, "One day you'll understand. One day this will all make sense." I stopped believing that around age 12. By 18, I'd accepted it. By 30, I barely felt it anymore. Or so I told myself. But at 58, standing in that funeral home, I realized the wound had never healed. It had just scarred over. And Grandma was about to rip it open. 2 weeks before Grandma died, I sat by her hospital bed. Cancer had taken everything but her grip. She squeezed my hand with surprising strength and pulled me close. "The box," she whispered. Her breath was shallow. "The box will explain everything. Don't let him stop you." I didn't understand. I nodded anyway, thinking it was the morphine talking. She passed 3 days later. The funeral was exactly what she'd wanted. Small, simple, full of flowers. I delivered the eulogy because no one else could speak without breaking down. I talked about her kindness, her strength, how she made the best apple pie in Pennsylvania. I didn't mention how she was the only person who made me feel like I belonged. Dad sat in the front row, stone-faced. He hadn't cried. Hadn't spoken to me beyond a brief nod when I arrived. Standard operating procedure for 30 years. After the service, the lawyer approached me in the parking lot. Mr. Henderson had handled Grandma's affairs for decades. He handed me a small metal box, maybe 8 inches across. My name was engraved on the top in delicate script, "For Sarah." "Your grandmother left specific instructions," he said. "This is to be opened by you. Only you." I turned the box over in my hands. It was locked. Mr. Henderson pressed a small key into my palm. She said you'd know when the time was right. I looked up and saw my father watching from across the parking lot. Even from 30 feet away, I could see the fear in his eyes. Sarah. Dad's voice cut through the murmur of family conversations. He was walking toward me, moving faster than I'd seen him move in years. That box. Give it to me. People stopped talking. My aunt paused mid-sentence. My brother set down his coffee. Grandma left it for me, I said quietly. I don't care. His voice was sharp now, desperate. That's private family business. You don't understand what you're. Then help me understand. I looked him in the eye for the first time in months. Why are you so afraid of what's in here? Mom stood up, her face pale. Michael, don't. But I was already turning the key. The lock clicked. The hinges creaked as I lifted the lid. Inside, nestled in blue velvet, were three things. A stack of old photographs, edges yellowed with age. A birth certificate. And a sealed envelope with my name written in Grandma's handwriting. I picked up the top photograph. It showed a young woman, maybe 25, with dark hair and green eyes. She was laughing, one hand on her pregnant belly. She looked exactly like me. Exactly. But it wasn't Mom. Who is this? My voice came out as a whisper. Dad's face crumbled. Sarah, please. I opened the envelope. Grandma's letter was 3 pages long. My eyes found the first line and the floor seemed to tilt beneath me. Sarah, your father has been lying to you for 30 years. You deserve to know the truth about who you are. My hands trembled as I read Grandma's words. Each sentence landed like a punch. The woman in the photograph was named Catherine. She worked at Dad's office in 1966. They had an affair that lasted 8 months. When she got pregnant, Dad panicked. He was already married to Mom with 2 kids. He told Catherine it was over. Catherine died giving birth to me. Complications the doctors couldn't stop. She had no family, no one to take the baby. Grandma found out about the affair when the hospital called. She drove to Philadelphia and made a decision that would shape all our lives. She convinced Dad to bring me home. Told Mom they could raise me as their own, tell everyone I was adopted. You'll give this child a family, Grandma had said. And Michael will face what he's done every single day. Mom agreed. But the agreement came with conditions I was never meant to know about. She'd raise me. Feed me. Clothe me. But she couldn't promise to love me. Every time she looked at me, she saw Catherine. The woman who almost destroyed her marriage. And Dad. Dad couldn't look at me without seeing his own shame. His betrayal. The life he'd taken from a woman who'd trusted him. So he kept me at arm's length. Not his daughter. Not really. Just a constant reminder of the worst thing he'd ever done. Grandma had begged them to tell me the truth when I was old enough to understand. They refused. Year after year, she watched me suffer, watched me internalize their rejection, and couldn't speak the words that would set me free. Until now. Until she was dying and had nothing left to lose. I looked up from the letter. My siblings were staring at me like I was a stranger. Mom was crying silently, shoulders shaking. Dad had collapsed into a chair, head in his hands. I couldn't finish the sentence. Mom's not my mother? Biologically, no. Mom's voice was barely audible. But I raised you. I tried. You tried? The word came out sharper than I intended. You let him treat me like I was invisible. You watched him forget my birthday, miss my graduation, act like I didn't exist. And you said nothing? The room was completely silent. 30 people watching our family implode. I looked at my father. Really looked at him. For the first time in my life, I saw past the coldness to what was underneath. Shame. Deep, crushing shame that had been eating him alive for 3 decades. You blamed me, I said softly. A baby. You blamed me for your choices. He finally met my eyes. His face was wet with tears. I blamed myself, he whispered. Every time I looked at you, I saw Catherine dying. I saw what I'd done. The family I almost destroyed. I couldn't, his voice broke. I couldn't separate you from my guilt. My brother spoke up, his voice shaking. Dad, she's our sister. How could you? She's not your sister. Mom's words dropped like stones. Not biologically. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm so sorry. But when I looked at you, I saw her. The woman who slept with my husband. I tried to be kind. I tried to be fair. But I couldn't love you the way you deserved. There it was. The truth I'd always known but could never prove. I wasn't imagining the distance. The coldness. The feeling that I didn't belong. I really didn't belong. I looked down at the birth certificate in the box. Sarah Catherine Morrison. Catherine. My birth mother's name. A woman I'd never know. A woman who died so I could live. I spent 30 years wondering what was wrong with me, I said quietly. Wondering why I wasn't enough. Why you couldn't love me. I looked at each of them. My father, broken and crying. My mother, guilty but unable to take back decades of cold shoulders. My siblings, processing the fact that their family was built on a lie. It was never about me being unworthy, I continued. It was about you being unable to face what you'd done. I carefully placed everything back in the box. The photographs. The birth certificate. Grandma's letter. My hands were steady now. I forgive you, I said to my father. His head snapped up. Not because you deserve it. Not because what you did was okay. But because I'm not carrying your shame anymore. I've carried it long enough. I turned to my mother. I forgive you too. You gave me a home when you didn't have to. That counts for something. I closed the box and tucked it under my arm. But I'm done pretending to be someone's burden. I'm done making myself small to make you comfortable. My sister grabbed my arm as I walked past. Sarah, wait. We didn't know. I know. I squeezed her hand. This isn't about you. It's about me finally understanding that their inability to love me was never my fault. I walked out of that funeral home and didn't look back. In my car, I opened the box one more time. At the very bottom, underneath everything else, was one more photograph. Grandma and Catherine, arms around each other, laughing. On the back, in Grandma's handwriting, your mother was beautiful, brave, and kind. Never forget where you came from. Grandma couldn't save me while she was alive. But she could give me the truth. And the truth, painful as it was, finally set me free. I'm 58 years old. I spent most of my life believing I wasn't enough. But sitting in that car, holding that box, I realized something Grandma had been trying to tell me all along. I was always enough. They just couldn't see it through their own pain. The drive home was quiet. I kept the box on the passenger seat, glancing at it at red lights like it might disappear. Sometimes the people who hurt us most aren't cruel. They're just broken. Running from their own shame, their own guilt, their own inability to face what they've done. My father didn't reject me because I was unworthy. He rejected me because I was a mirror. And he couldn't stand what he saw. I learned something that day. You can spend a lifetime waiting for someone to explain why they couldn't love you. Why they chose distance over connection. Why you were never quite enough. But sometimes they can't explain it. Because they don't understand it themselves. They just know that loving you means facing something they've buried so deep, it would destroy them to dig it up. The truth, no matter how painful, is better than wondering. Better than inventing stories about your own inadequacy. Better than carrying someone else's shame like it belongs to you. Grandma knew that. She knew I needed answers more than I needed protection. She knew that at 58, I deserved to stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and finally hear, "Nothing was ever wrong with you." I don't talk to my parents anymore. That was my choice. My siblings call sometimes, trying to bridge the gap. I love them for trying. But some relationships can't be repaired. Some wounds are too deep, carved over too many years. And that's okay. Because I have something now I never had before. I have the truth. I know who I am. I know where I came from. I know that my birth mother loved me enough to give me life, even though it cost her everything. If you're reading this and you've spent your life wondering why someone couldn't love you, hear me. It was never about you. Their coldness, their distance, their inability to see your worth, that's about them. Their pain. Their fear. Their unhealed wounds. You don't need their closure. You need your truth. And the strength to walk away from people who can't give you what you deserve. Grandma's box didn't destroy my family. It exposed what was already broken. And in doing so, it finally set me free. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to hear more real stories about family, truth, and finding peace after a lifetime of pain. Leave a comment below telling me, have you ever discovered a family secret that changed everything? You're not alone. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that they were always enough. The truth may hurt, but it's the only path to freedom.